on one of our operations, Union 2. We're an OP. The scout unit is an OP out in front of the main unit.
So an outpost?
Excuse me?
Is that OP's outpost?
Outpost, yeah. LP's a listening post, OP's a outpost. And so when they went to set in for the night, well, we were out further from it, and the MVA started walking in mortars, and they basically fired and saw where they fired and then would adjust. Well, they were short, so they dropped them right on top of us, not knowing that we were there. I'm laying down. I have my hands behind my neck, head down, and that's where it got my hands, fingers, and stuff. That's what I got a Purple Heart for. Legs, it was in my butt, everywhere, and so
How long were you out of the field as a result of that?
I was out about 21 days, and typical when it came time for me to rotate back after my 13 months, I went in what I thought was the last week there, and said I was, the first sergeant asked me what I was, what I needed, and I said, well, Top, I'm due to go home. I'm coming in to get my orders. He said, no, you were out on the hospital ship, the repos, 21 days. You got to make that time up. Really? And I said, make it up. He said, yeah, you were out of the country. I was sitting out in the,
oh my gosh,
the bay out there on the ship. I could see. He said, so I went back out in the field, and
wow, I've never heard that before.
He was just a hardcore.
When that mortar strikes, and the shrapnel hits you, what happens over the next couple of minutes? The Navy corpsman comes. Did it take you a minute or two to realize you'd been hit?
No,
what was that first minute or two like?
It doesn't take very long, because we were hit with white phosphorus, and the white phosphorus is used so they could spot and adjust off of it, but it's burning, and so you've been hit. My corpsman and I were in the same. We were digging the same hole. He lost one leg, had one left hanging on by the front muscles. He lost both of his legs, but he took the brunt of it, and then it just that's the way things.
Was that the only corpsman you had in that area?
Well, we were out front. The
right.
scouts were out, and we have one corpsman, and lucky to have that, because usually a squad, a corpsman would be assigned to a squad, and so that he was our corpsman. But
roughly how long was it? I know you're not going to know the exact time, but roughly how long was it before they were able to get you medevaced out along with the corpsman?
Well, the assault came shortly after the mortar attack, and fortunately you have reaction units in the main force, and so they met up with the assaulting force about the same time, right on top of us. So we were able to get out the next as soon as light, so that, because the medevacs could not come in. We were drawing fire. They're not gonna, and so we sat in the LZ till the morning, and they were able to get us out.
Would that be a few hours, 3 or 4 hours, maybe?
About 6 or so, and fortunately, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but morphine came in a little aluminum tube, about this long, with a needle, and you put it between your fingers and just slap your leg. It's not a controlled dose or dosage to it, but it it helped, but it was pretty strong. I mean, once I got into Charlie Med in Da Nang before going out to the ship, I mean, I threw up my stomach lining and stuff. It just because it's not controlled. They don't know it's night. Whatever, you just do it to keep the pain down. And the first thing I remembered in the morning was the medevac coming in, the Hueys and the rounds going off and tracers and the smoke to bring the helicopter in. You do a red smoke if you're under fire, yellow smoke if or green smoke for it. And I remember how vivid the colors were of the smoke and the tracers, but I'm riding about 6 feet above the helicopter on the way in. You're just
From the morphine, you mean?
yes.
So then the morphine had the effect of making you very ill, but then once you know,
Well, it took away immediately took away the pain, and these are because the metal that hits you has the phosphorus on it. It doesn't stop burning until the phosphorus is gone, and so there's a good bit of pain, but not as bad as some of the other people in it.
So this may sound like a dumb question, but so it's a long time. And again, I doubt that you're going to know exactly. I mean, maybe you do know exactly, but hours, you say 6 hours between getting hit and the medevac helo coming to get you. Obviously, I'm assuming that you're not in a position where you can really fight at this time. So
you still you still try to maintain that. I mean, you still have your weapon with you. At that time, we had already transitioned to M16s. I mean, you're sitting there because you're ready. You're not as cognizant of what's going on, but you still have that enough sense about you to know that things aren't in good shape. You're not in good shape, and the things around you still haven't settled out. I mean, there's still firing. There's still people trying to penetrate. It's just it's the morphine just confuses you more, but you don't lose that sense of danger.
Were you confident during that 6-hour period that you were going to make it?
You didn't care. That wasn't. You're not cognizant of that. You don't know, and you're there with other people who didn't make it that are laying beside you because they're going to go out on it. I did not. We didn't have enough pure medevac, and so some of the gunships had to come in, and we were just thrown in the back of the gunship because we weren't as in bad shape as others. And I held on to our chaplain, who was dead, to keep him in the helicopter from falling out the doors, because the doors on the gunship are open and there's firing. So it's there's a lot of going on, and all the morphine does is mask that for you.
The chaplain was dead?
Yes, his name was Father Vincent Capadanno. he received the Medal of Honor on that operation. The 1st Battalion, 7th Marines lost 566 men and corpsmen while they were there, and 1 chaplain. And Father Capadanno, we just call him Padre, a Catholic chaplain. He went to administer rites and to drag people back.
Wow.
He was wounded 5 times, 2 of which proved to be fatal. But I do remember the S3, which is your operations officer, major, on the radio saying, who is that idiot? Tell him to get down. He didn't call him idiot, but whatever, he didn't know. And our radio cracked back to him, said, that's no idiot, that's the Padre. And he didn't say anything else, but Father Capadanno, he just kept going.
He was out. So my assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, my assumption is that, a chaplain doesn't have to be out on the, basically on the front with the combat troops. So this is a chaplain who volunteered to go out, knowing these guys are getting into a rough situation, knowing that at the very least, they're probably going to get some comfort from the presence of a chaplain, but probably more knowing that some of these guys are going to need some last rites. So I'm going to go out with them.
Yes.
And he's out there, and when this major calls, he's out there ministering to these Marines, and that's why the major can see him.
He just sees another Marine out there. He's actually Navy, but I mean, we're all dressed alike. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
And here's this guy running out under fire to drag wounded people back, and he's trying to tell you, get down. We're still and these guys are hollering or whatever that have been hit and stuff, and he just keeps going. And he took his orders from a higher level than the major.
Higher than the major. Again, you've got the effects of morphine going on, and you've got a lot of things going on. And it probably isn't a long helo flight from where you are to Da Nang. But if you can bring back to your mind's eye, to your memory, that trip on the helo, getting out of that thing, you're wounded. Describe what's going on inside that helo. What do you see inside that helo when you're on that medevac flight from where you were to Da Nang?
Well, as soon as they lift off, their door gunners are firing. They still have, since I was on a gunship instead of the medevac ship, they still had rocket pods. They're sitting right outside your door. They're still engaging to get out and to keep from anything from hitting them, to keep the attacks on them low. So they're still firing, and then you're up and out of it, and all you do is, I remember 2 things: the guns, the M60s in the door firing, and the rocket pods. But the other thing that stayed with me for a long time was the diesel smell of the fuel from the helicopter. And every time I smelled that, it's almost like a flashback.
You're back on that helo.
One of my sons, when he was little, he ran and hit the screen door, and the glass came down and cut his finger off. And we rushed him to the hospital and they sent a Angel One from Little Rock over to pick him up to take him to Children's Hospital in Little Rock. And I'm staying with him, and through this, I've got his finger in a cup of ice, and take him into the hospital, and so it arrives, and the first thing that hit me was that diesel smell. And it's they wouldn't let me ride in the helicopter to Little Rock with him, but I drove, and I got there not too long after the helicopter landed, and at Children's Hospital. But that things like that, you get a trigger every now and then that causes things to pop back up. And
So when you're driving from where you are, obviously you're concerned about your son, but you've got this wound, you've got, something like a medevac operation. I mean, when you're making that drive, in a way, is it almost like you're kind of back in Vietnam again?
in a sense, yes, it's a we we did everything possible over there to get people out. We never left anybody. We stayed till we found everyone and got them out. And I mean, that's that was one thing, one part of the camaraderie between us, as you knew, regardless of what happened, you were going to go home.